The psychiatrist testified that Bardo told him he identified with Mark David Chapman, the man who shot former Beatle John Lennon.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the shocking true crime stories that lurk behind some of entertainment's best-known names. For this video, we're looking at famous figures, infamous cases, and disturbing celebrity-adjacent crimes that don't always get as much attention as the usual headline-grabbing scandals.
He wasn't really around that much for my childhood. He was in prison.
Mark Wahlberg's violent past.
Let's switch subjects here a little bit. You've been in the news recently for a subject that has nothing to do with making movies. You have filed paperwork with the Massachusetts Parole Board to get a pardon for felony convictions from when you were a young man. I think it's pretty well known that you didn't grow up in a Norman Rockwell existence.
No, not at all.
Outside Boston.
As a teenager in Boston, the future Marky Mark was involved in multiple racially motivated attacks. In 1986, when he was 15, court documents identified him among a group of white youths who chased black schoolchildren near Savin Hill Beach in Dorchester, threw rocks, and shouted racial slurs. The incident led to a civil rights injunction. 2 years later, Wahlberg attacked two Vietnamese men in separate confrontations: Tan Lam, whom he struck with a wooden stick, and Hoa Trinh, whom he punched in the eye.
According to the Daily Mail, the Vietnamese man attacked by Wahlberg is now living in Texas. Johnny Trinh told them he had no idea who his assailant was until now. Trinh also denies a report that he was blinded in one eye by the attack. He says that happened during the Vietnam War.
He was initially charged with attempted murder, but ultimately pleaded guilty to assault and battery, along with other charges, and served 45 days of a 2-year sentence.
Why do you want the pardon? Because there seems to be some discrepancy there.
Yeah, and of course everybody has an opinion, is entitled to it, whether I'm deserving of it or not. But, you know, from the day I woke up in prison, realized the mistakes that I had made and the pain that I had caused people, I committed to turning my life around, which was not an easy thing to do.
The story became especially uncomfortable in 2014 when Wahlberg sought a pardon, pointing to his later success and charity work as evidence that he had changed. Some victims and observers supported forgiveness, while others argued the record should remain. Wahlberg later dropped the request, but the story still complicates the redemption narrative around one of Hollywood's biggest stars. In 2016, Wahlberg said the pardon controversy had at least led to one meaningful moment. He met with Hoa Trinh and his family to apologize, after Trinh had publicly said he forgave him.
I've always been completely open about my past. You know, we've probably had this conversation many times. I've been talking about it for over 25 years since I've been in the public eye. I'm not proud of what I've done. I'm just committed to making sure that I've paid for my mistakes and I avoid kids, hopefully help kids avoid making those mistakes.
Jay-Z's nightclub stabbing case.
A top rap star is busted.
Jay-Z turned himself in tonight, and the cops started working on his rap sheet, accusing him of a stabbing at a trendy party.
Sean Jay-Z Carter is one of hip-hop's elder statesmen, a billionaire businessman, and one half of one of music's most powerful celebrity couples. But in the late 90s, he had a serious criminal case hanging over him.
The rap star voluntarily turned himself in here at the precinct earlier this evening. Now, Carter is being held here in connection with that stabbing fight that erupted at the Kit Kat Club last night. But just a few moments ago, Carter's attorney had this to say.
He's not involved in this, period.
He was at the club?
That's my only comment. He wasn't involved.
On December 2nd, 1999, record executive Lance Un Rivera was stabbed at Manhattan's Kit Kat Club during a listening party for Q-Tip's solo album Amplified. Jay had performed earlier that night at a separate event for his own album, Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter, and denied wrongdoing from the start. Before the plea, he faced up to 15 years if convicted at trial on a felony assault charge. He eventually pleaded guilty to third-degree assault in October 2001 and was expected to receive probation. Rivera had drafted a civil suit, but didn't file after receiving an out-of-court settlement reportedly between $500,000 and $1 million.
When you heard that he's getting probation for it, how'd you feel?
At that point, how many albums was he probably up? Maybe 3 million albums. So I said, it worked.
It worked.
That December, Carter was sentenced to 3 years probation, closing the case just as the blueprint was turning him into rap royalty. In fact, he had even maintained his innocence on Izzo H.O.V.A., the iconic Kanye West-produced hit from The Blueprint.
Cops wanna knock me, DA wanna box me in, but somehow I beat them charges like Rocky.
Decades later, Rivera revealed that Jay was not the person who stabbed him, adding another layer of mystery to this already murky case. Tim Allen's pre-fame trafficking bust.
Using a router, you want to use a real steady hand.
Well, you might want to use the guide arm, Tim, so it doesn't get away from you.
Well, you don't always have to use the guide arm if you have a steady hand.
Well, if you want a straight line, Tim.
Al, I've been doing this for years, all right?
Before he was Tim the Toolman Taylor, Buzz Lightyear, or Disney's favorite Santa Claus, Tim Allen was facing a future that looked nothing like show business. In October 1978, when he was still Timothy Allen Dick, the future sitcom star was arrested in an undercover bust at Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport in Michigan with cocaine, nearly 1.5 pounds of it. The timing made things even more serious. Just a month earlier, Michigan had passed its harsh 650 lifer law, which meant that delivering more than 650 grams of cocaine or heroin could warrant a life sentence with no parole.
Anything over a certain amount was life in prison. They were going to do this. It started in New York and then spread east. It was called, they wanted to stop drugs like they're trying to do now by increasing the sentence or putting in people in prison. It didn't work then, didn't work in Prohibition. You can't make people not get high.
Allen avoided the outcome after being prosecuted federally and cooperating with authorities, later serving about 2.5 years in prison. Allen's ability to provide information helped reduce his sentence, while others caught under the same law had far fewer options.
Did you have a good defense attorney? Apparently not.
He said, I'm going to tell you we're going to get out of that by pleading guilty to something you didn't do. And that's plead guilty to conspiracy to bring it into the country, then it becomes a federal offense, not a state offense. And then the federal offense is different. I said, whatever.
He later said the arrest, quote, probably saved my life, which makes this more than just a celebrity mugshot footnote. Long before the family-friendly fame, Allen's life nearly disappeared into a mandatory sentencing system that could have ended his career before it ever started.
I worked in a federal prison, and then you get your own cell. It's like a big deal. And so I called home at Christmas to look at my mom. Hey, she goes, hey, Tim, we're in the middle of Christmas dinner. What's up? I got my own cell. And she goes, hold on a second. Dave, he just finished University of Michigan. Steve, he just got out of Purdue. But Tim just got his own cell, everybody.
Claudine Longet and the death of Spider Sabich.
Nothing to lose if we are wise. We're not expecting a rainbow-colored skies.
This French-born singer and actress was once known for her soft-voiced records, appearances on The Andy Williams Show, and her marriage to Williams, with whom she had 3 children. But by 1976, Longet was living in Aspen with Vladimir Spider Sabich, a 31-year-old skiing star who had won the 1968 World Cup Slalom and the U.S. Championships in 1971 and 72. Sabich was so popular, he became a celebrity beyond skiing, even helping inspire Robert Redford's character in Downhill Racer.
Hello.
Hey. Is this yours?
Yeah. Like it?
On March 21, 1976, Sabich was shot in the bathroom of the couple's luxury chalet. Longet admitted she was holding the .22 pistol, but said it discharged accidentally while Sabich was explaining the gun to her.
Judge George Lohr told the jury that if Miss Longet believed the gun's safety catch was on at the time of the shooting, she is not guilty of reckless manslaughter. Defense attorney Charles Weedman told the jury that Miss Longet did believe it was on, and that the one remarkable fact in this case is that the safety did not work.
Prosecutors argued the physical evidence told a different story. A ballistics expert said the weapon had been fired from 4 to 6 feet away, and the prosecution said Sabich's body position made the gun lesson explanation hard to square. The trial became even stranger because several potentially important pieces of evidence were thrown out or weakened by investigative mistakes, including Longet's diary, a blood test, and problems with how the firearm was handled. In 1977, jurors rejected the more serious reckless manslaughter charge, but convicted Longet of misdemeanor criminally negligent homicide.
Their deliberations took about 3.5 hours. When they announced their verdict, Miss Longet showed no emotion. She faces a maximum penalty of 2 years in jail and a $5,000 fine. She will be sentenced January 31st.
She received 30 days in jail, with Judge George Lohr allowing her to choose when to serve it before September 1st. Patty Hearst, heiress, hostage, outlaw.
She commutes 20 miles to court each trial day and remains a puzzle to the last. The day they caught Patty Hearst, she gave a clenched fist salute and listed herself as an urban guerrilla. Now demurely dressed, sometimes near tears, she tells the jury of the horrors of kidnapping, of being terrified, brainwashed, her lawyer says, by the SLA.
On February 4th, 1974, the 19-year-old granddaughter of publishing magnate William Randolph Hearst was kidnapped from her Berkeley apartment by the Symbionese Liberation Army. They were a small, radical left-wing militant group in 1970s California that mixed revolutionary rhetoric with violent crimes. The group first demanded the release of imprisoned SLA members, then demanded that the Hearst family fund a massive food distribution program for needy Californians. Her father arranged millions of dollars worth of food donations, but the chaos was only ratcheted up several notches. In April 1974, Hearst released an audio tape saying she had joined the SLA, adopted the name Tanya, and soon after appeared on surveillance footage carrying a weapon during the Hibernia bank robbery in San Francisco. After more than a year on the run, she was arrested in September 1975, reportedly listing her occupation as urban guerrilla while being booked.
Well, I cooperated with them because I had to cooperate with them. You know, if they want to sit there and explain, you see, this was, they were going to educate me because they felt that, you know, anyone they had kidnapped should be educated and be made to understand their beliefs.
At trial, Hearst testified that she had been confined, threatened, and coerced, while prosecutors argued she had acted willingly. In 1976, she was convicted of bank robbery and using a firearm during a felony. Sentenced to 7 years, released after President Jimmy Carter commuted her sentence, and fully pardoned by President Bill Clinton in 2001.
Was she the innocent young girl who was brainwashed? Not herself when she robbed the bank, which under American law would be sufficient grounds for acquittal? Or was she, Tanya, the willing revolutionary who is now trying to save her skin?
The scandal that destroyed Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle.
Excuse me, sir. My name is Smith.
Smith, I'm glad to know you, Mr. Smith.
I'd like you to bake me a cake with a letter S on it.
S?
Yes. You know what an S is, don't you?
Oh, certainly, an S. Well, that's an I with a hook on each end. I beg your pardon.
This comedian was one of silent film's biggest stars, earning a reported $1 million a year Paramount contract and helping launch or mentor figures like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, and Bob Hope. Then came Labor Day weekend at San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel in 1921.
Here we have a man who was at the height of his career, who ate lavish food, drank the best wine, the finest champagne, the most expensive caviar, had the biggest house in Hollywood, had the biggest car in Hollywood. He was reduced to the status of a common criminal.
Arbuckle had driven there with Lowell Sherman and Fred Fishback, renting rooms 1219, 1220, and 1221 for what became a Prohibition-era party. Actress Virginia Rapp became gravely ill in room 1219, wasn't hospitalized until 2 days later, and died on September 9th from peritonitis caused by a ruptured bladder.
The scandal didn't make Zucker happy. He took Arbuckle off contract for non-performance. Of course, Roscoe couldn't act. He was in jail in San Francisco. So they invoked the non-performance clause and canceled his contract. Well, that, in effect, canceled his salary.
Rapp's companion, Bambina Maud Delmont, accused Arbuckle of causing the damage that led to her death, but a doctor found no evidence of sexual assault, and Delmont never testified at trial. Nevertheless, the case exploded in the press. Newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst, remember him, later claimed the Arbuckle scandal had sold more newspapers than the sinking of the Lusitania. District Attorney Matthew Brady initially pursued severe charges before the case was reduced to manslaughter. The first 2 trials ended in hung juries, but Arbuckle's 3rd trial ended in a unanimous acquittal after only minutes of deliberation. Bizarrely, the jury even issued an apology saying a grave injustice had been done.
The prosecution probably suffered from that disease that we call in litigation overkill. It wanted to be so sure of the conviction that it threw everything it could in. 96 witnesses. And the more witnesses you get in, you stand the risk that the witnesses contradict each other.
Legally, Arbuckle was cleared. Publicly, he was finished. He owed enormous legal fees, was forced to sell assets, and although he later directed under the pseudonym William Goodrich, the scandal permanently overtook his legacy. How Rebecca Schaeffer's murder changed stalking laws.
Good morning and welcome to Detroit. This little cutie pie next to me is Rebecca Schaeffer, seen as Patty Russell and My Sister Sam on CBS.
Hi, this handsome guy next to me is Joe Penny, who plays Jake Stiles on Jake and the Fat Man, also on CBS.
Rebecca Schaeffer was only 21 when her Hollywood story was brutally cut short. Born in Eugene, Oregon, and raised in Portland, she started as a teen model before landing her breakout role as Patty Russell on the CBS sitcom My Sister Sam.
Here's the album I was telling you about. Scum Puppies, live.
Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.
Yeah. Isn't he great? I can't believe he was actually in my house. Exactly my feeling.
By 1989, she was trying to move into film, with credits including Woody Allen's Radio Days and scenes from the class struggle in Beverly Hills.
Hi, guys. Where's Mom?
You're late.
I know.
She's pissed.
I couldn't help it. PCH is closed. Malibu's on fire.
You look beautiful.
On July 18, 1989, Schaeffer was reportedly preparing for a major audition tied to The Godfather Part 3, when Robert John Bardo, a 19-year-old from Tucson, arrived at her West Hollywood apartment. He had stalked her for roughly 3 years, sent letters, tried to reach her at the Warner Brothers lot, and eventually obtained her home address through a private investigator using DMV records, which was entirely illegal at the time. After Schaeffer answered the door, Bardo shot her in the chest and fled. He was arrested the next day after motorists reported a man running through traffic on Interstate 10, and he soon confessed. In 1991, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole, with future O.J. Simpson prosecutor Marcia Clark handling the case. Schaeffer's death helped lead to America's first anti-stalking laws and contributed to the 1994 Driver's Privacy Protection Act, which restricted access to personal DMV information.
ABC News recently reached out to Bardo in prison, and he responded by phone.
I accept full responsibility for what I've done. My thinking was so negative, and I was blaming others for things that was happening within me. But regarding Rebecca Schaeffer, she was irreplaceable. I think about her every day because she should be here. I realize what I've done, and I feel a lot of tremendous guilt.
The fall of Phil Spector. As the architect of the Wall of Sound, Phil Spector crafted the sound of 1960s pop through records by the Crystals, the Ronettes, Darlene Love, and the Righteous Brothers. He later worked with the Beatles, Leonard Cohen, and the Ramones, and produced 19 U.S. top 10 singles, resulting in his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989.
We have an American treasure in Tina, and I've always believed that Fred Astaire did something, and through his pictures, he changed forever the way dancers would sing. Well, Tina Turner, for me, changed forever the way singers would dance.
But by the 2000s, his musical legacy was permanently overshadowed by the murder of actress Lana Clarkson. In the early morning of February 3, 2003, Clarkson met Spector while working at the House of Blues in Los Angeles. She later went with him by limousine to his Alhambra mansion, the Pyrenees Castle, where she was found dead from a single gunshot wound. Spector's driver, Adriano de Souza, said Spector emerged holding a gun and said, quote, "I think I killed someone."
And he opened the door. As soon as he opened the door, I jumped, went to the back door, and he was standing in the door with the gun in the hand.
Prosecutors later introduced testimony from women who said Spector had previously threatened them with firearms, arguing it showed a pattern when women tried to leave. Spector's first trial ended in mistrial, with 10 of 12 jurors favoring conviction. At his retrial, he was convicted of second-degree murder in 2009 and sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. He died in custody in 2021.
Spector's former wife, Ronnie Spector, took to Instagram and posted this picture, saying in part, he was a brilliant producer, but a lousy husband.
Woody Harrelson's father was a hitman.
We were filming on Cowboy Way one day, and this woman walks past me and says, "Your father should have gotten the chair for what he did," and just kept walking. really upset me.
Woody Harrelson's laid-back public image makes the story of his father, Charles, even more startling. Charles Harrelson wasn't just a criminal with a famous son. He was a convicted contract killer and organized crime figure with ties to one of the most shocking federal crimes of the 20th century.
You didn't know he was in prison at that when he left?
I didn't know. I heard it, I found out, oddly enough, over the radio.
Did you ask your mother? She hadn't told you, I guess, about your dad going to jail, huh?
She hadn't. She had neglected to mention that to me.
Before the crime that made him nationally infamous, Charles had already been convicted of armed robbery and later convicted in the murder-for-hire killing of grain dealer Sam DeGelia Jr. Then, on May 29, 1979, U.S. District Judge John H. Wood Jr. was shot outside his San Antonio townhouse. Wood, nicknamed Maximum John for his harsh sentencing reputation, became the first federal judge assassinated in the 20th century. Charles was convicted of killing him after being hired by Jamil Chagra and was sentenced to 2 life terms.
You see him?
I do, yeah.
Do you visit the prison?
I go to visit him.
Have you talked to him about it?
Oh, sure. He has always said he's innocent of this crime, and he continues to say so.
Woody later said his father had left the family home in 1968 and that he only reconnected with the story after the news of the Wood case broke. He visited Charles during his incarceration, musing that he, quote, looked at him as someone who could be a friend more than someone who was a father, end quote. Charles eventually died in prison in 2007.
Do you think you're like your father?
Oh, there's a lot of similarities, yeah.
How so?
I want to segue off the father thing. I've talked enough about him. Let's move on to something else, if you don't mind.
Before we continue, check out this single from Sound Mojo's album Balance. Classical music reimagined as rock, hard rock, and metal. Check out the full track and album below.
Gold by silence, guilt by prayer. I am the echo, you can't outrun the joke's on you. The blade's begun.
The killing of Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was one of Motown's defining architects. He was the Prince of Soul, whose career ran from I Heard It Through the Grapevine to What's Going On, to the Grammy-winning comeback of Sexual Healing.
And when I get that feeling, I want sexual healing, sexual.
But behind that voice was a brutal family history. Gaye's father, Marvin Gaye Sr., was a strict Christian minister and disciplinarian. By the early 1980s, the household was fractured. His parents' marriage had deteriorated, Marvin had moved into the Los Angeles home he'd bought for his parents, and the father-son tension was worsening.
Soul singer Marvin Gaye, whose career spanned over 25 years, including the birth of the Motown sound to the 80s, was shot to death yesterday in Los Angeles.
The final confrontation began over a misplaced insurance policy letter. On March 31st, 1984, Gaye Sr. argued with Alberta, Marvin's mother, and the conflict carried into the next day. Around 12:30 p.m. on April 1st, Marvin shouted from upstairs that if his father wanted to argue with Alberta, he should do it in person. When Gaye Sr. entered the bedroom, Marvin reportedly shoved and struck him before Alberta separated them. Minutes later, Gaye Sr. returned with a .38 pistol Marvin had given him the previous Christmas and shot him. He fired again at close range, hid the gun under a pillow, and waited on the front porch until police arrived.
Marvin Gaye Sr. armed himself with a handgun and fired several shots, wounding Marvin Gaye Jr.
Marvin Gaye was pronounced dead on arrival at California Medical Center at 1:01 p.m., one day before his 45th birthday. Gaye Sr. later pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and received a suspended 6-year sentence with 5 years probation, dying in 1998.
I mean this from my heart. I wish I could do it back. I wish, you know, I just really, it's killing me. I'm sorry. It's something I regret. It's always until I die.
Which true crime story shocked you the most? Are there any we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments.